This is an unforgettable event. Footage of cars lined up for miles on end at food banks in cities across the United States reveals crisis. Food banks across the country are facing funding shortfalls in the face of the increasing demand. This is on Mind Unleashed by Common Dreams. Images and videos of miles of cars lined up at food banks in San Antonio and other cities across the U.S. present a striking example of the economic effects of the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, which has thrown at least 16 million Americans out of work in recent weeks and increased pressure on the distribution centers to provide key staples for food for the flood of the needy people in the country. Lots of videos and comments here. Unforgettable images, thousands of cars lined up at a San Antonio food bank today. The desperate families inside kept safely apart, according to CNN senior editor Amanda Katz. Breadline 2020. On Thursday, San Antonio Food Bank creative manager Robert R. Fike posted time-lapse video of the line of cars waiting to get supplies. He said, "This is what I saw, blistering heat, folks in line since 7 p.m. the night before to get food. Hundreds of volunteers busting it to serve, and so families could go home, probably to pass some out to their neighbors as well and get the nourishment they need." It was a rough day today, San Antonio Food Bank President CEO Eric Cooper told San Antonio Express. He said, "We've never executed on as large of a demand as we are now. The onset of the coronavirus outbreak brought with it the economic paralysis across the U.S. and the world, shutting down businesses around the world as people use social distancing and isolation to curb the spread of the disease. In the U.S., where lawmakers have largely dragged their feet on providing unemployed people with help, Americans are increasingly turning to charities like food banks to provide the means of survival." Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, an outspoken advocate for economic relief efforts, tweeted on Friday that the scenes from food banks were indicative of the need for immediate congressional action. He says it's outrageous that in the richest country in the world, in the history of the world, people are going hungry. According to the New York Times, food banks across the country are facing funding shortfalls in the face of increasing demand, despite donations from the super rich. Feeding America, the nation's largest network of food banks, with more than 200 affiliates, has projected a $1.4 billion shortfall in the next 6 months alone. Last week, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, announced that he was donating $100 million to the group, the largest single donation in its history, but still less than a tenth of what it needs. In January 2019, Business Insider calculated Bezos making roughly $4.5 million every hour, making his donation to Feeding America the equivalent of around 22 and a half hours of passive wealth generation. And San Antonio was not the only city to see record numbers of people seeking help and miles of cars waiting for food. Pittsburgh, Inglewood, Chicago, Sunrise, Florida were among cities with packed roads leading to local facilities and massive amounts of food to be distributed. Feeding South Florida Executive Vice President Sari Vatsk noted in an interview with the Daily Mail that with stay-at-home orders in her state curtailing the available workforce to handle an unprecedented surge in those needing aid, there may be trouble ahead in how to efficiently distribute the food. She said, "The math is not on our side." This is by Ewan Higgins, Creative Commons on Common Dreams, and it's on The Mind Unleashed. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.